The water, depending on the strength of the wind or how high a tide it is, comes all the way into the houses or at least to the back of the house. I've had to build protective walls here to keep the water out of my house, and I don't even know if they'll hold or not. But it was the only thing I could do to try and protect my property. This past winter has been relatively easy. We've had minimal problems this past winter, just flooding onto the property, but the last storm that came into my home was what we refer to as the Halloween storm. And that came all the way into my house for about 13 inches of water. I blame the state of Delaware and the Department of Interior Fish and Wildlife Service. They had ample notice that there were problems here when we had very small breaches. This was storm damage breach. This wasn't sea level change. It wasn't climate change. It was storm damage, and it was minimal when it started. And we reported it to them. We wrote letters to them, and everyone gave us short shrift. Now when we have breaches that are probably unfixable, people are starting to take notice. But when it was a $10,000 fix, a $20,000 fix, no one did anything. I've never felt so abandoned and betrayed as I have with the responses up until recently that we've had from the governments. We have had responses now from the governor and from the congressional delegation in Washington, which makes me think there is some hope. But it's been very long in coming. It's been horrible. I've probably gained 70 pounds with stress. Every time we've had a flood, the flood insurance raises my deductible, and it doesn't cover it doesn't cover most of what has been damaged. I don't think they can make things right, other than giving me a lot of money to compensate me for everything that I've lost. But what they could do is do temporary restraining things here along the shoreline. I had mentioned this to the governor's aide, Greg Patterson, in January when we had a meeting with Fish and Wildlife, that this is something that is done in the bayous in Louisiana. There are tubes that are, I think they're about a foot high, and you can stack them 3 high, and they're temporary. You fill them with water, you lay them down, and they stop the flooding. And we could have the government do that. And then if they had a problem somewhere else with drainage after the wildlife refuge is fixed, they could use those somewhere else. It wouldn't be a lost cause, and it would help us immeasurably, both financially and psychologically. I think there's been a lack of understanding that there are human beings here who are suffering greatly. Fish and Wildlife is very concerned about the loss of the habitat for the birds. The turtles are all dead. The frogs are all dead. They're not concerned that they've impacted us. And what is really difficult for anyone to understand is most of the people who are here are older, and we can't make this back up. We don't have working life in front of us, so we can't recover from this financially. I don't even consider this a home anymore. It's no joy, it's no sanctuary, it's a horrible place to be.